quest for excellence, it's very easy to overlook some of the more simple stuff. But some of this stuff constitutes the actual fundamental building blocks of what it is that we're trying to achieve. In this case, I'm talking about triads. And there's no shame in admitting that you might not know this as well as you thought you did. And it's always worth checking in just to make sure that you're up to speed on this kind of thing. So we'll dive in very quickly. Don't want to teach you to suck eggs or anything. So here's the C major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're looking for 1, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 3, 5. C, E, G. Okay. First inversion is literally starting from the next note and going around. So we're going 3, 5, and then back to start. 1, 3, which is E, 5, G, and then C, 1. Okay. Second inversion. Follow the same pattern. So we start with the 5 and then back around to the start. There's 1 and then 3. You've seen all these shapes before. Okay, so there's 4 different types of triads. There's major, minor, augmented and diminished. To get the minor, we're making the third a minor third, so we're dropping the E to a E flat. Okay, first inversion. Drop the E to an E flat. Second inversion, drop the E to an E flat. Okay, diminished is taking a minor and flattening the 5, so the G is now going to be G flat. So C minor, make the G flat. We've got a diminished. C minor, make the G flat for our diminished. Augmented is the other way. It's taking a major and sharpening the 5th. So we've got C major here. Sharpen the G. That's G sharp. First inversion. Sorry. First inversion. Sharpen the G. G sharp. Second inversion. Sharpen the G. G sharp. Marvellous. It's quite nice at this point to have a look at how they link up across the strings, like this. So root position, and then move down to the next group of strings. Second inversion, first inversion, then root position. Start with the first inversion, root position, second inversion, first inversion, and start with the second inversion, first inversion, root position, second inversion. I found quite a nice way of practicing these is to play the 3 inversions on the different groups of strings, but then change to the next group of strings with the nearest inversion, like this. Root position, first inversion, second inversion, and then literally just change to the closest inversion that you can find. So here's the first inversion. Move to the next group of strings. I'll make this the first inversion, it's closest. Second inversion, root position. Last group of strings, second inversion, first inversion, root position. It's quite nice to employ that technique whilst changing chord as well. So we could pick some random chords. I'm just going to pluck some notes out the air. Let's keep C in there as a point of reference. Let's go C, E flat, G, and A. Why not? C, E flat, G, and A. Okay. So here we go. C, E flat, nearest inversion. I make it root position. Yeah. E flat. And then G, nearest inversion I make, is second inversion. Root position. First inversion. What do we say? A. Nearest, maybe second inversion. First inversion. And then root position. So that's quite a good way of locating your triads on the fretboard. Okay, let's do that again. So it's the same notes, but let's start from somewhere else. So we'll start from C, root position, on the bottom group of 3 strings. First inversion, second inversion. Next up we've got E flat. I make the nearest inversion, second inversion, then first inversion, root, then G, I make it root, first inversion, second inversion, then what did we say, A, well, root position, second inversion, first inversion. Okay, let's do the same thing with minor. So let's go from the root position on the top 3 strings. C, E flat, G, 1, 3, 5, 1 flat third 5. First inversion, E flat, G, C. Second inversion, G, C, E flat. Let's use the same pattern, the same notes. So we'll go to the next available inversion of E flat minor on the next group of 4 strings. Root. So that's E flat, G flat, B flat. Okay, we go to the second inversion and then to the first inversion. Still happy with these? Okay, then we're going G minor, wasn't it? To the next group of 4 strings. Which I make the second inversion. So then we're root position next. And then we're first inversion. Okay, and then we were A minor. Nearest I make second inversion. 5, 1 minor third. E, A, C. First inversion. And then root position. Okay, so clearly we can do this with all the types of triads. Let's go diminished. So here's C diminished. The flat 5 now. First inversion. Second inversion. Let's use the same, just to make it slightly easier. E flat diminished. That's the root position. And second inversion. And the first inversion. Then we're going G diminished, second inversion, so flat 5, 1 minor third. Then we're going root position, 1 flat third minor, flat 5. And then we're going first inversion, which is flat third, flat 5, 1. And then A. So closest I see is second inversion. So that's flat 5, E flat, 1 flat third. Then first inversion, root position. Okay, so yeah, easy, isn't it? Triads. You kind of know them or you don't. You know what I mean? Right. Okay. Well, let's apply this to a more kind of musical situation now. So rather than doing completely random notes, we could apply this to more of a kind of progression. Could I humbly suggest that we have a look at maybe a 2-5-1? That sounds like a fine idea to me. So okay, let's look at we'll stick in C, and we'll just play the chords from a 2-5-1. So let's start with plucking them randomly out of the root position. So we're going to go D minor, G. Remember, these are triads, so they're not four note chords. So it's just going to be G, and then C. So D minor, root position, and then we're going to go for the nearest inversion of G, which I make the second inversion, and then the nearest inversion of C, which is the first inversion. Okay, nearest inversion of D minor, then G, C, then D minor, G, C. Okay, we're getting quite high now, so I'm sorry if your guitars run out of notes. So let's start coming down. Let's move to the next group of 4 strings. D minor, G, second inversion, nearest inversion, C, first inversion. Next inversion of D minor down, that's root position. Nearest inversion of G is the second inversion, and then we've done that one, so let's go to root position. Okay, D minor, next inversion down, and then let's go to the next inversion of G, nearest inversion, which is first, and let's move down because we've used that C already. So second inversion. Okay, next group. Remember, these are going to be the same because they're all tuned in fourths. Root position, second inversion, first inversion, first inversion, D minor, root, G, C, second inversion, D minor, second inversion, G, first inversion, C, root. So that's going to be exactly the same on the last group. I won't start too high. Let's start here. First inversion, D minor. We're coming down now, so let's go second inversion, C, first inversion. Next inversion of D minor, root. Next inversion of G. We've used that one already, haven't we? Let's go first inversion, and then root of C. D minor, second inversion, root of G, and second inversion of C. It kind of makes sense, right? It's good for voice leading, and it just kind of shows you where the kind of basic notes are. Okay, well, although this sounds like very, very basic stuff, this is actually a lot closer to being music than you might think. So what I'll do is put on a 251 backing track and play the Triads, and then I'll just add a couple of notes, shift the rhythm around a bit, not a lot, and see what we come up with. See what you think. Next inversion. Yeah, and so on. Well, I didn't think that went too badly. Obviously, you know, there were a couple of approach notes and things like that I'm kind of putting in to make it all work out right. But essentially, it's yeah. I mean, it's very simple thinking. But unless you know where these triads are, then you haven't really got a hope of kind of putting that stuff in. Let's have a look at a minor 251. So it's going to be D minor 7 flat 5. G7, C minor. Of course, we're dealing with triads here, so we're not dealing with 4-note chords, but we're just dealing with the triads. So the first one is D diminished, which is 1 minor 3rd flat 5. We're going to do it from the lowest possible inversion, which is down here. This is starting with a flat 5, 1 minor 3rd, So that's the second inversion. Next inversion of G, which is first inversion. C, root. Off we go again. This is D diminished, root. G, second inversion. C minor, first inversion. D diminished, first inversion. G, root. C, second inversion. Okay, should we change strings? Let's do the whole lot. Why not? So we've got D diminished, root. Let's move down to the first inversion for G. C minor, root. Nice voice leading. D diminished, second inversion. G, root. C minor, second inversion. D minor, D diminished, first inversion. G, root. Nice easy one that. And then C minor, first inversion. Okay, next group. D diminished, root. G, second inversion. C, first inversion, minor. Then first inversion of D diminished. G, root. C minor, second inversion. D diminished, second inversion. G, first inversion. C, root. C minor, root. Okay, these are all the same now because of the old strings being tuned in fourths. But we'll do them anyway. So we've got D diminished, first inversion. Let's head down this time. G, second inversion. C minor is right there, so we'll play this one for first inversion. And we got D diminished, root position. Then we got G, first inversion. C minor, root. D diminished, second inversion. G, root. And then C minor, second inversion. Fabulous. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'll basically try and incorporate a load of those triads into an actual improvisation, fill in the gaps with a few approach notes, and probably stick the odd flat 9 in on a G. Don't be surprised if you hear that. Okay, well, here goes nothing. Root position. The first inversion. Okay, well, I was moving about a little bit, but just trying to sort of join up these little triads, it makes you realise that there's an awful lot of mileage in just using these tiny little units of information, and it means you're not carrying as much around either. You're not thinking about a whole scale or like a whole mode or anything like that. It's just a little cluster of notes, and it just sort of presents it to yourself, once you've got these things sort of really under your fingers and in your head, and that kind of, the sound, it's just kind of right there. While we're here, I think it's worth talking about the whole diminished thing, and that's such a huge kind of repeating pattern that it can feel almost too big to sort of think about the whole thing all at once. And I think using these triads it's quite a good way to sort of break it down into more understandable sort of chunks, maybe. So we're talking about 7 flat 9 chords here, when we're talking about diminished. So if we take G, it's not very posh G, is it? But if we address the diminished chord that lays a half step above it, it's A flat in triad form. Okay. Not the nicest voicing in the world, but that's the root. So this is now a G7 flat 9. Okay. So instead of being A flat, then D flat 5, and B the minor third, we've now got 3 5 flat 9 of a G. Okay. Fine. Next inversion of A flat minor, diminished, sorry. So this is still a G7 flat 9, although it's flat 5, but in relation to A flat, it's still flat 5, 1, flat third. Again, apply that to G, and you've got 5, flat 9, 3. Very usable little chunk of information, and then the root position of A flat diminished. So instead of 1 flat third, flat 5, we've now got flat 9, 3, 5. Okay. So of course these things repeat every 3 semitones. So, I mean, it's a case of where you kind of want to put it in your head, really. But it's let's take the next one up. So B, we've got the nearest, well, the furthest down inversion. We've got B diminished here. Again, you stick it over G, and instead of B, D, F, or 1 flat third, flat 5, we've now got 3 5 flat 7. Next inversion. So over G, we've got 5 flat 7 3. Next inversion. So we've got flat 7, 3, and 5. Next one up from B is D. So now we've got 5 flat 7 flat 9. My hands aren't big enough for that, I don't think. Oh, yes they are. Okay, next inversion. We've got so that's flat 7 flat 9 5. Next inversion, we've got for D diminished, we've got flat 9, 5 flat 7, and there's just one left, and that's F diminished. Let's go all the way back down again. Should we use this? Yeah, why not? That's as low as we can go. I don't think I've ever played that chord before. So we've got flat 9, 3, flat 7. Next inversion, second inversion of F diminished in relation to G, we've now got 3 flat 7 flat 9, and then root position of F diminished in relation to G, that's flat 7 flat 9 and 3. So you can see that all of these things are completely and utterly usable, and they sound pretty good, We haven't given the augmented triad much of an airing yet, so let's do that right now. We'll stick with a minor 2-5-1, and we'll go through the inversions again from the bottom this time. So we've got D diminished, second inversion. nearest available as we're going up is G augmented first inversion, so it's 3, sharp 5, 1, and then C minor root. Then we've got D diminished root. And then we've got G augmented second inversion, so we've got sharp 5 to start with, 1 and 3, and then C minor first inversion, D diminished first inversion, G augmented root, so 1, 3, sharp 5, and then C minor second inversion. Next group of 3 strings. Should we go this high? No, let's not go that high. Let's go down here. Second inversion, D diminished. Start heading down. G augmented root. C minor second inversion. D diminished first inversion. G augmented second inversion, so sharp 5, sharp 5, 1, 3, and C minor first inversion. D diminished root position. G augmented first inversion, so 3, sharp 5, 1, and then C root position. Okay, where are we now? Let's D diminished first inversion, G altered root position, C minor second inversion, then we've got D diminished second inversion, G augmented first inversion, C root position, D diminished root, G augmented, I'm starting to lose it, G augmented second inversion, so sharp 5, 1, 3, and then C minor first inversion. Okay, last group. Are we going to run out of room there? We might do. Okay, so let's go D diminished second inversion, flat 5, 1, minor third, and then G augmented root, C minor, right here with second inversion, D diminished first inversion, G augmented second inversion, and then C minor first inversion, D diminished root, G augmented first inversion, and finally C minor root. Okay, I'll just play a little improvisation and try and pick out the augmented triad, include that kind of sound into the minor 2-5-1, and hope that you can hear that that's exactly what I'm doing. messing around a bit more than I should have done then, but you can hear how the sound of the augmented scale just fits right in. 7 sharp 5 essentially. When we stick it on the top of a G7. And it's probably quite an important point to note there, I suppose, is that the sharp 5 of G, if you're going on a 5-to-1 resolution, becomes the minor third of a C minor. So yeah, it seems to work quite well in minor, but it also works just as well in major. This just sounds a little bit different. Go on all day, but hopefully you can hear the sound of the augmented triad and how that kind of resolves to major just as well as it does to minor. It's got its own kind of unique sound. I was kind of throwing in a couple of things there, like for instance the G augmented. So it's obviously a kind of parallel chord. That's the kind of way, or parallel triad, that's the way it works out. But with the augmented scale, there's it's also a whole symmetrical scale, so it's in whole tone. So in fact, there's a kind of triad in between the triads, if you know what I mean. Which comes in handy once in a while. Yeah, anyway, that's going off the subject a little bit, but hopefully you can see how this kind of triad-based improvisation is going to make, hopefully, everything kind of seem a lot simpler, and not feel that you have to learn scale after scale after scale. It's all about melody and kind of simplicity of ideas, and I find these little clusters, these little zones of activity, one of the most handy things when it comes to improvisation. So perhaps I'll just finish off and play a little improvisation and try and include some of these diminished substitutions. And I'll play this one in major, just to show you the sort of interchangeability, if that's a word. Start on the root of D minor. When you're ready, anytime soon. A flat, diminished. D root again. Second inversion. D minor. A flat root again. D minor. We go B diminished this time. So it would be the next inversion of B minor. And the next inversion. We'll go D this time. The next inversion up. I'm running out of room, so I'll go down here. We used F this time. Next inversion. To C. So you can see that all of these things are going to work. I think that's a great introduction. Well, it was an introduction into Triads, and I'll expand on some of these concepts in a further video. So look out for that. All right. See you soon.